Hello everybody, I'm Art. Welcome to my channel. Ex-family scapegoat, ex-black sheep, ex-evil character. And in today's topic, I'm going to be addressing the subject of cutting contact. Or rather, when should you cut contact with your narcissistic parent or with the entire narcissistic family system? Now, I have gone no contact and I've gone low contact many times before I actually finally called it quits for good. And this going back and forth, that I went through was extremely costly to my mental health, to my physical health. I lost friends over this because, people got exasperated with me for repeating these cycles in circles and witnessing me constantly go through shock and grief and guilt and shame over and over again without resolution. I was judged for it. I was mocked for it, not just by people that were close to me, but by outsiders too, who saw me as immoral. The guilt and the morality that was used consistently to keep me within reach of my abuser was just constant. Now, they train you to believe that you deserve the abuse. That's how I was trained. I deserve the abuse because of my character. I was told for my entire life that I deserved what I got because of my character, because I was so evil of a child, that I deserved not to have a loving mother in my life. And when we're raised in this way, when we're raised in a narcissistic family system, abusive behavior is normalized and it becomes a part of the family culture. Emotional abuse is normal. They will tell you that psychological abuse is normal. They will tell you that coercive control is normal, that guilt trips are normal, that the physical abuse that you endured was your fault because you provoked them into reacting. They will tell you that you're imagining things. They will tell you that you're irrational. They will argue with you about your experiences over and over again. You will never, ever get the validation, the okay to go no contact from the people who abuse you or who enable the abuser. So you have to separate yourself emotionally from what they are actually telling you and start looking within what's going on within yourself. How do you feel around those people every day? Did you know that matters? It actually matters how you feel every day. And of course, they condition you to believe that it doesn't matter how you feel, that you're crazy, that you're irrational, that you're emotional, that you're the narcissist, that you're abusive, right? They will tell you, they will paint you as a demon. But if you get rid of all of that, and it's just you and me right now talking to each other like we're old friends, and I ask you, okay, forget about all that, about what they tell you. Forget about that whole mindset of you being unworthy of safety, because even if you do make a mistake, even if you do make a choice that doesn't align with what everybody else wants you to do, there are certain things that are never, ever okay. Physical abuse, psychological abuse, persistent emotional abuse. This is something that's more rarely talked about, and it's not really taken seriously, especially by the people in the family. People don't understand how, painful and how traumatic it can be to go through emotional abuse every single day as a child, as you grow up, and even as an adult. For example, name calling, degrading sentences such as nobody will ever love you and you will die alone, you're worthless, guilt tripping you into compliance and using their victimhood as a means to control you. You're overreacting. I was just joking. You're too sensitive. It didn't happen that way. You remember things wrong. Playing mind games with you, making you doubt your own memory, your own sense of reality. always making you feel inferior, right? Endless silent treatments that never end and that become completely normalized in the system. Mocking or humiliating you in front of friends or family, or even when it's just the two of you, when no one else is looking. And then that's very easy to deny in the aftermath. Lack of empathy, dismissing your feelings, dismissing your reality, and yet you watch those very same people have empathy with strangers, with coworkers, or even when they watch movies or documentaries and they say, oh, look at these terrible things, they will tell you to shut your mouth, to keep your mouth shut because you don't matter, right? The key here is that it's actually really all about patterns, okay? It's about cycles. It's about these things going around and around and around and around with no resolution in sight ever. Patterns rather than occasional mistakes. Because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has a bad day. Nobody's perfect for sure. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, nobody's perfect, okay? So I'm not talking about occasional mistakes, If you're not sure, this is step one, is start looking at the patterns in your family. How many times have you actually tried to get some sort of validation for what you've been through, what was going on, about how you felt, about your hurt, only to get shut down? How often does your narcissistic parent revert to name calling, psychological, physical abuse, and then in the aftermath, it's always excused for reasons, morality, victimhood, right? It's like, what are the patterns? The pattern is they cause harm, and then there's a reason for the harm, and then everybody is happy. They cause harm, there's a reason for the harm, everybody's happy. And like that, it goes in circles and circles and circles, How often, do they take accountability for their behavior? Are they willing to change? Are they willing to go to therapy? And I don't mean go to therapy and then manipulate the therapist or whoever, so that everybody takes pity of them through their victimhood. I'm actually talking about genuinely, really, really, really listening to you and wanting to make the relationship with you work genuinely. Keep a journal and write down all the events. Write down your physical reactions, your emotional reactions to everything that's happening. And the reason why you do this is not because you're going to show them. In fact, there's no use. Even if you film the abuse, this is not, in a family system, denial rules these families, okay? Denial is the ruler of everything. So even if you have proof, even if you have witnesses, that to them, they will still find reasons for everything. They will tell you that you did something to deserve it and so on because it's part of their mentality. My mother once hit me in the face when I was holding a newborn child in my arms, my son, in front of my father. My father saw it happening and still he mentioned my character and family, the mention of family and so on to keep me right in that space, Those are the patterns that you see in those systems, and patterns don't lie. So when you look at your journal, you can actually look and read back to 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, and then you will really see, oh my gosh, a year ago, it was like the exact same thing, ruminating about this, fight about that, calling me names, this and that. And as you read through this, you realize, okay, these patterns are just going in circles and they never, ever, ever change no matter what you do. Now, aside from the patterns, there's also other things that you need to consider. Like, for example, your capacity to cope. Do you have the emotional, mental, physical energy to keep managing this contact, these relationships? Everybody has their own tolerance levels. And trauma isn't about just like the event itself, but about how you experienced it within. Some people could just brush off a narcissistic parent and be like whatever and just ignore it. And some people can't because they get very deeply affected by what's going on. Other people are not you and you are not other people. and other people will tell you, get over it. Other people will give you stupid advice. You can't compare your experience to the experience of, let's say, the enabling parent who will tell you, well, I put up with it. I put up with it, so you should put up with it too. I put up with it because that's family, right? That's what you do with family. You put up with it. And if you don't put up with it, you're not being family oriented, and like you're evil and there's something wrong with you. So all of those, again, are manipulation tactics. This is people not actually facing the real issues. This is people not listening to you and not considering what these dynamics are doing to you. Another thing that you can ask yourself is, what impact these dynamics have on your identity? Are you able to be yourself around those people, or do you get erased? Do you get silenced? Do you get shamed? Do you get mocked? Are you treated like as the inferior family member constantly because you made mistakes? And you have to consider what impact this relationship has on your identity. Are they keeping you isolated from the rest of the world and using fear to keep you trapped? Or are they using religion to keep you trapped? Their religious beliefs to keep you trapped. And are they discouraging relationships? Like every time you get close to someone, that person is evil. Let's say that you connect with someone and they don't like that person, but then you break up or there's a fight. Then suddenly they will start to really like the person that broke up with you or that broke your heart, because that will serve as proof that there's something wrong with you. And that will serve as proof that, your choices are flawed and there's something wrong with you. So they will reinforce these ideas that the world is dangerous all the time, making you feel isolated. Again, this is toxic. These are tactics designed to keep you from self-actualizing, from doing what's right for you, from helping yourself, and from going no contact if you have to go no contact. And what about the impact that the narcissistic parent or parents or the entire system have on your life goals? That's another question you have to ask yourself. Does staying in contact with them prevent you from pursuing your personal goals, your sense of independence? Do they keep treating you like you're too stupid to take care of yourself, make smart decisions for yourself? These are all signs that it may be healthier, really quite healthy for you to go no contact. And in order to go no contact successfully, there's a few points that I'm going to have to add here, and my biggest mistakes are as follows. First of all, I didn't kill hope when I should have. I actually had to kill the hope that things will get better in order to get better myself. Hope is not helpful for scapegoats. It's a destructive feeling. Every single time I went no contact with my abuser, which is my mother, my enabling father pulled me back through guilt, through this lovely idea of family, through using her illnesses, because she's been dying apparently for decades. And of course my brother too, the golden child, did the same thing. And they all said things would be different when I would go back. But it was all words and it was all bullshit, okay? That whole thing of your mother loves you, she's worried about you, she talks about you all the time, we miss you, we love you, it's all bullshit, okay? Each time I went back, first of all, there was never a real sincere apology from my abuser, okay? There was no accountability. There was never even a real conversation about what happened. And once they got me back and her abuses started again, and I would reach out for support, I would ask my brother for help, I would ask my father for help, they, resumed that speech of this again. We already dealt with this stuff already. I'm fed up with this. I'm fed up with this again. And that was the response I got. After they convinced me to go back, that was the response I got. This again? This again? Yeah, this again, because she never got any treatment. She never got the mental health, intervention that she needs. She never went to the doctor to deal with her mental health issues. So of course, this again. And no, Dad, I will never, ever, ever get over it. I'll never get over it. No, brother, I will never get over the fact that my mother doesn't love me and has a drive to hurt me on a cyclical basis because she is a sick woman and I am her relief system. No, I will never, ever, ever be okay with that. So when you go no contact, really the mistake that I made was that I kept enablers in my life. And no contact really has to be full no contact. If you want peace, you can't just cut out the narcissist. You actually have to cut out the entire system, the flying monkeys, anybody related and manipulated by that person. Because if you don't, the guilt trips will keep coming, the manipulation will keep coming, the messages will keep coming, the sabotage will keep coming, and this was the hardest thing to do. The people that I had in my life during that time, it was my brother and my father. That's it. I had nobody else in my life. And I always viewed them as family. I always viewed them as people that, that I don't know, I can't even actually tell you what, because thinking back, of course now after so many years of no contact, it actually took me many years to develop this very healthy anger towards them for never having protected me. But at the time, I saw them as if they had my best interest at heart. I felt like they meant well. That was at the time, but now that I've gone no contact, I really have been able to see the truth, because you step back and the longer you stay away, the more everything becomes clear. But if you keep those people in your life, the people who enable the narcissist, it becomes impossible. It's very hard to really see the bigger picture unless you really distance yourself from the entire system. And, the thing about gray rock is that it doesn't change the narcissist. Yes, you can gray rock. Gray rock is a tool to help protect you. And I've made videos on that. You can check them out. It's a tool that can help protect you. But it doesn't erase the narcissism, and it won't protect you emotionally, when the abuse escalates because you're not reacting, and then they try to they intensify the abuse as you gray rock because they want that reaction. So that's something that happens when you gray rock. They will intensify their abuse and their antagonisms until you react, My mother did this all the time, and it was extremely difficult. And not just that, but even if you don't react, you still have to find safe zones and have outlets, because it takes such a huge amount of energy to stay stoic. Another thing is that they will rewrite history whether you're there or not. Okay, and this is something that I find so ironic, because they will try and do everything in their power to get you to stay there for some reason. But when you stay there, you're labeled as the problem, and when you leave, you're labeled as the problem, the deserter. So they will rewrite history no matter what you do. No matter what you do, you can't. That's something that you have to accept, really, because anything that happened to you that hurt you will be denied, minimized, and destroyed. And if we stick around, we end up arguing with people who live in a completely different version of reality. They will also talk to you about forgiveness, and that's another point that I'm going to make, okay? Forgiveness means, in those types of systems, means go back and take more abuse, okay? That's what those families teach you. That's what they mean when they talk about forgiveness, okay? When they say forgive, they mean make yourself available for more abuse, and it doesn't matter how you feel about that. What matters is your moral obligation to be good, no matter how you feel about that. No matter whether you're sick, or hurt, or whatever, or you're abused, you go through incredible abuse, it doesn't matter. And to a narcissist, and this is something that's so hard to explain to general population that has never been through narcissistic abuse, okay? Forgiveness is a green light to continue abusing, and a message, it sends them the message that they can get away with whatever they're doing without taking accountability, and that's it. And there is no bettering, there is no evolution, there is no accountability. If there was meaningful change, that will be different. But the core of narcissism, the core of narcissism is that the world is always the problem. They are angels. They are gods put on this earth to grace us with, us inferior humans with their perfection. And so if you want to forgive them, go ahead. But forgiveness has nothing to do with making yourself available for more abuse. You can forgive if it makes you feel better, if you need that for your own healing, go ahead and forgive. But that doesn't mean that you go back and take more abuse. Forgiveness does not equal go back and take more abuse. It just means that you let them go because you accept that this is a sick person that you're dealing with, and maybe they've been through things, and whatever it is, that's fine. You can forgive them if you want, but that does not mean that you go back and make yourself available to them for more abuse, because they will and they do continue abusing. This is something that just doesn't stop, okay? It just doesn't stop. It just doesn't. And another thing too is, when you go no contact, you may even think about the good moments, but again, this is bait, because they trigger you they condition you to feel guilt for everything. They condition you to feel guilt for these good moments. And yeah, of course, when I think about my father, tons of good moments with my father, just me and him sitting down, having conversations about stuff, me getting along with him helping me out, being there for me when she wasn't there. But as soon as my abuser showed up, his demeanor changed towards me. And this is the stuff that my memory sometimes would forget when I would feel overwhelmed with those good moments, Enablers that keep reeling you back in don't have good intentions towards you, okay? Their intentions are selfish. They don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to face what's going on. They want to do what's easy. If you go back, the dysfunction can continue. Everything can resume as it always has been, okay? They don't have to do any work. They don't have to do anything. Nothing needs to change, because now you're back and everything is happy again. Be aware of the irony of double standards, okay? My abuser, I was raised with the silent treatment, and her silent treatments could go on for months. Even when I had a back surgery and had a near-death experience because the surgery went wrong, something happened, and I still did not get a phone call from my mother. So, my mother, she could give the silent treatment to me all she wanted to. But if I took a healthy distance, to protect myself, if I told them I'm setting a boundary, I can't have a relationship with this woman, I need space, I'm the devil. Devil for taking space, healthy space. And it wasn't out of anger. And that's another thing too. They're going to accuse you of being angry and of being vengeful, which is what the narcissist does. That's not what you're doing. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is really protecting myself, because I'm just not going to deal with that shit anymore. I'm just not. I'm just protecting myself, and that's it. And there's nothing beyond that, I can't have a relationship with this person, end of story, because I need to protect myself. I need to take care of my health. I need to, deal with my trauma, and this is a very good reason to take space with somebody, but they will take it as if you're vengeful. So be prepared for all of these things to come at you when you do decide, if you do decide to go no contact. And if you do think about breaking no contact, because those things will come at you, the system is still going to continue working against you. Now, when you think about all the casualties, when you go no contact, because there are casualties, you lose people that you love. And what I've come to understand is actually you can't save people that can't be saved, that don't want to be saved, rather. You can't convince someone to have a relationship with you if that person has already decided that they are going to follow what the narcissist says, and they're not going to listen to you. They're going to listen to the narcissist, and they are going to follow the rules of the narcissist. And they will not have a relationship with you because of that. You can't help someone like that. And you are not the one who's abandoning that person. They are abandoning you. because nothing is stopping them. They really could have a relationship with you if they wanted to. My father and brother could have had a healthy relationship with me if they respected, my need for boundaries with that woman, okay? If they respected my wishes, if they simply, respected the fact that this woman made me sick. And if you want to have a relationship with me, great, but do not talk to me about this woman. Do not involve me with this woman. And this is just not like, just have some respect for my boundaries, but that just does not happen, okay? It just doesn't, because it's a system. And narcissistic family systems really do work like cults, and that's so important to understand. And so you and I, after we go through this, we have to grieve. And there's a lot of grieving that needs to happen after we come out of these systems. Going no contact is about accepting that the parents and family you needed never actually existed. And it's grieving the hope that things will change. It's grieving what you will never have. That you will never have the family that you needed, that you never had it as a child, and that you never will as an adult. And while this is incredibly painful to go through, on the other side, there is another world. And when we kill this hope, when we accept the reality of these toxic relationships, and when we instead start putting our focus on processing our feelings, accepting our reality, putting our entire focus on being healthy, on making healthy decisions for ourselves, on paying attention to our lives and the things that matter to us. When we realize that there is no changing them, the rumination cycles actually stop. Because when the rumination starts, maybe it starts a bit and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? There's no point in going through this conversation in my head because this person just doesn't understand what's going on, and they never will. This person has no idea, no clue, and they never will. This healing really began for me when I reached the acceptance of my situation, and that I was never going to be able to change it, and that I really had to put my focus on myself and my needs, no matter how they labeled me and no matter what they think of me. It just doesn't matter to me anymore. It's just not my problem anymore, and it will never be my problem ever again. And creating this place of safety and permitting myself to grieve without trying to change anything about the grief, without trying to convince myself or convince anyone of anything anymore, but just sitting with the reality of the feeling and going through the grief. And this takes time. It's very painful. It's very long. There's ups and downs. But eventually and gradually, you will start having these small signs that you're starting to heal. And eventually the pain will decrease and it won't take over your days anymore. And as you do this and you take care of yourself and you take care of your body, you take care of your mind, you work really hard on your own self-discovery, on learning how to be authentic, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to redevelop your social skills, learning how to reconnect with people and so on. I mean, there's so much work to be done. But once we go through this and really focus on our healing, this is when everything changes. And when you go outside or you start living your life, you start noticing how beautiful life can actually really be, and that there is good in the world. It's just that you've been stuck in hell and in a very dysfunctional place, which is not representative of so many things about the world. And as Carl Jung famously once said, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. So remember to love and trust yourself, trust your feelings, trust in yourself, and trust in how you feel, and follow your feelings, follow your needs, instead of following everybody else's needs. If you have to go no contact because it's too much for you, and you need space for healing, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes a lot of strength to do that, actually. And this is, reaching a place of safety, creating a place for safety for yourself is the most important thing that you can do. So remember, I love myself, I trust myself, and I'll see you soon.